Okay. Says we're live. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Garrett Smith, known as the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts. And we are here with another Friday Love Your Liver live stream. And we're going to have a good time today. Because today's topic, well, it is February 10th, 2023. Today's topic is a big one. Vitamin D levels, things everybody worries about. People try to take, they take lanolin derived from sheep's wool that has been irradiated, also used as rat poison. Another name for it is vitamin D3 cholecalciferol. And they wonder why they don't get better and why they get worse. And yet all these studies funded by the National Institutes of Health are saying you should take rat poison pills to fix your vitamin D. Well, what if, I'm not going to get into the shadiness of vitamin D science because it's probably very, very shady, like all of the fat-soluble vitamin research. Do you know that vitamin D, cholecalciferol, calcitriol, is an alcohol? How is it alcohol? Alcohols are vitamins? Interesting, is it not? Well, what I do know about vitamin D is that we do need sunlight or light to be healthy. I'm not here to debate that fact, to dispute that fact. Don't be a shut-in and get no sunlight or any ultraviolet light on your skin. That's bad, okay? How the sunlight or the UV light converts to vitamin D and how that affects our health, that's what I'm suspicious of, okay? We all know, those of you who have been here long enough know that vitamin A science is complete garbage. And most of the other fat-soluble vitamin science in general, is mostly garbage, except for vitamin K. Vitamin K is the one exception in the fat-soluble vitamin world. But it's also not an alcohol, which is weird, right? Tocopherol is an alcohol. Tocotrienol is an alcohol. Those are the vitamin E's, if you didn't know. Why are there all these alcohols? Why are they going through the same detox process that ethanol, aka alcohol, aka the devil's drink, go through? Why are vitamins that are alcohols going through the same detox pathways that alcohol does? Isn't that weird? Same thing as methanol, which turns into formaldehyde. This doesn't sound right. But anyway, what if there were certain toxicities and deficiencies that if you corrected them, made your vitamin D levels get better? And you never had to take rat poison pills to fix your vitamin D. Wouldn't that be really interesting? So that's in the title of the video, right? That vitamin A toxicity will lower your vitamin D levels. Magnesium deficiency will lower your vitamin D levels. And fixing your magnesium will raise your vitamin D levels. And zinc deficiency will lower your vitamin D levels. And fixing your zinc deficiency will raise your vitamin D levels. Amazing. Why are they not talking about this? Why is everybody just trying to get you to take rat poison pills lately? Isn't that weird? It's almost like they want you to take poison. We would never talk about that here. Never. So let's get into it. So I have a post here, which has some people try to dispute some of the research I've done because I'm going to send you to this forum of mine. It's a research forum, and basically it was my forum, and I post there. It's just the way I did it. I liked it better than blogging. But references there, and some people go, well, this is obviously this guy's site, so this can't be believed. This is his own personal site. And I'm like, I'm linking to PubMed links, man. Are you in the real world? Like, seriously. Anyway. So the title of this article is Your Low Vitamin D Level is Because of poison/vitamin A toxicity. I used to call it poison/vitamin A. So, what it's known, the general thing that's known is that vitamin A, which is not an essential nutrient, is antagonistic. That means it works against vitamin D. So, the more vitamin A that you have in your system, the less vitamin D you would have. Okay. Let me find my Twitter thread. About the epidemic of vitamin A toxicity that is going on. So, if I were to show you, there's an epidemic of vitamin A toxicity going on. And yet the mainstream is saying there's an epidemic of vitamin D deficiency going on. Do you see how these could both be caused by the same thing? If vitamin A is antagonistic to vitamin D, does that not make sense? So what are they trying to do? Well, let me give you a quick story. I had a gentleman contact me once who had taken way too much vitamin A, and he knew it. He knew it. He's like, I have all the symptoms. Well, who did he find? He found me, because I am the expert in vitamin A toxicity. And he said, I'm messed up. I have all the symptoms. I took a lot of vitamin A, thinking he was going to turn superhuman. Well, he didn't. He broke. And then he read about people saying vitamin D was antagonistic, or vitamin D was antagonistic to vitamin A. Okay. Sort of true. So then he took a bunch of rat poison pills and he gave himself vitamin D toxicity as well. He then gets back to me later. He didn't believe me. I said, don't do it. Don't. Two wrongs don't make a right. That's going to end badly. He didn't. He did it. He comes back to me and he says, now I have symptoms of vitamin A toxicity and vitamin D toxicity. And I was like, you got years of work fixing this now. I warned you. Don't do that. Two wrongs do not make a right. More fat-soluble, quote-unquote, vitamins in the system doesn't fix anything. More vitamin E. If you like to supplement vitamin E can, when you take it or when you eat enough of it, when you're trying to focus on it, can store up to 20 times more toxic vitamin A in your liver. 20 times. I have the mouse study. 20 times more vitamin A in your liver. Why are all these fat-soluble vitamins storing in your liver? Causing problems. Anyway, so some of these other studies that I have in here in this article. Here's a paper called Vitamin A and Osteoporosis, Experimental and Clinical Studies. Wait, let me see. Was that a Sci-Hub? I try not to use the Sci-Hub links anymore because most of those are broken. I used to do Sci-Hub so I could show people the whole study. And those links break. So here we go. Here's a quote from the paper. An interaction between vitamin A and D in humans was also demonstrated, where the calcium response elicited by vitamin D was antagonized by simultaneous, at the same time, intake of vitamin A. In the rats with subclinical hypervitaminosis A, which is what most of you out there have, subclinical means they're not going to diagnose it, but you have it. The serum levels of other fat-soluble vitamins were reduced, suggesting a general antagonistic effect on fat-soluble vitamins. Okay. So then we have another paper, all trans-retinoic acid, aka retin A, aka what everybody calls active vitamin A. All trans-retinoic acid antagonizes the action of calciferol, that's vitamin D, and its active metabolite 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol, which is active vitamin A. That's the one you should be testing in rats. We'll just read one line from it. An antagonistic interaction between retinol and calciferol has been established. Pretty straightforward. Next paper. Well, let me put this link in the chat. Next paper. Vitamin A antagonizes calcium response to vitamin D in man. That seems pretty. Do I need to read much from that? In conclusion, an intake of vitamin A corresponding to about 1 serving of liver antagonizes the rapid intestinal calcium response to physiological levels of vitamin D in man. Well, hey, we got it in humans. Why don't we just add one in rats? Here's the title: Vitamin A antagonizes the action of vitamin D in rats. Let's start with this sentence, because everybody worries about vitamin D for their bones, right? In particular, vitamin A has been proposed to intensify the severity of the bone mineralization disease rickets and inhibit the ability of vitamin D to cure this disease. Are they saying that vitamin A toxicity is part of rickets? Wow, that would be weird, wouldn't it? Let's read about what vitamin A does to bone in rats. The increasing amounts of retinol acetate produced a progressive and significant decrease in total bone ash, that means minerals, and an increase in epiphyseal plate width, that's the bone, that's the growth plates. You don't want them to get bigger. The same experiment conducted with increasing amounts of vitamin D indicated that the antagonism by retinol acetate could be demonstrated at all vitamin D2 dosages. Okay. So that's vitamin A antagonizing vitamin D. So again, remember, we know that as vitamin A goes up, the action of vitamin D goes down. I have, let me see. Let me post the other link I have about vitamin A at 3,000 units a day, I believe, 4,000. Worsening osteoporosis. Pretty straightforward in the research. So again, we have an osteoporosis epidemic. We have supposedly a vitamin D deficiency epidemic. And vitamin A has been shown to eat away at your bones at very small dosages and antagonizes vitamin D. Are you following? Are you tracking this, everybody? And what do they want to do? They want to give you the same stuff they put in rat poison blocks, Terra D3 and D-Con. I love the name of that one, D-Con. Are they not telling you right there? D-Con. Don't let your dogs eat it. They might die. And then people go, well, this is too big a dose. Dogs, it's one of the biggest things that sends dogs like poisoned to veterinarians is vitamin D3 blocks. They eat them and they get very, very sick. They even say to handle those blocks with gloves. Sounds delightful. Delightful, right? So let us get to the next one. Just want to do a quick one on zinc. Let me find the name of the study. Zinc and its role in vitamin D function. Oh, that seems important. Zinc and its role in vitamin D function. So before I go into this, right, for all the people who are out there going, correlation is not causation, and they think they're all smart, I'm going to say I feel pretty comfortable in the fact that if you can associate, let's say, low vitamin D levels with low zinc in the blood, and then you have studies that can show that supplementing zinc raised vitamin D levels, you can be sure there's pretty much an association there. Okay? This should make sense, right? That's good enough to establish patterns and to make pretty good judgments on. Well, let's just go over those little factors in this. Here we go from the abstract. Zinc is an essential mineral with an important relationship with vitamin D. Let's go over how important this relationship is, shall we? Studies have found that reduced blood zinc levels could predict vitamin D deficiency in adolescent girls. they could look at their zinc levels and predict low vitamin D in adolescent girls. Continuing, while zinc supplementation increased vitamin D levels in postmenopausal women. In vitro studies, so that's in cell studies, using human peritoneal macrophages, so that's white blood cells, have found that zinc induced the release of calcitriol, which is active vitamin D. Zinc also acts as a cofactor for vitamin D functions, as the transcriptional activity of vitamin D-dependent genes relies on zinc to exert pleiotropic functions. Okay? So, what if it's not an actual deficiency of vitamin D that's going on? How could zinc raise vitamin D levels? Zinc is not vitamin D. Zinc is not vitamin D. Zinc can also raise vitamin A levels. Zinc is not vitamin A. Zinc raises vitamin A levels in the blood. What I mean by that is it's freeing it up from the liver so you can get rid of it. That's what it's doing. But zinc raises the levels of these things in the blood? Isn't that weird? We know that zinc deficiency is an epidemic. So, one of the things we do about zinc in my work is we test blood zinc, plasma zinc, preferably, but serum zinc is acceptable, and we test hair zinc. That's how important zinc is in this world, in my world. We don't mess around with it. We're not joking around. People who only do hair testing for zinc, I'm sorry, you're missing out. The blood for zinc is very, very important, and it's important to skip a day or two of zinc before you do a blood test, so you can see what your levels are when you're not like still running off of a pill from the day before. I'm considering extending the time to not take zinc supplements up to I'm considering it. I haven't done it yet. We don't take it the morning of the blood test. We don't take it the day before. I'm considering extending it another day. I haven't done that yet, but I'm considering it because it shows deficiency states even better. And then when people take their zinc the day before the blood test and they tell me, it's obvious their zinc is much higher than it is at a normal level. Kind of their idle. Think of not taking zinc for a couple days would show us your zinc idle level. And then taking it too soon before the test is going to show you like revving the engine, which is not the way your car normally idles, right? So anyway, so there's zinc. Now we can get into magnesium. Let me put this link in here. Magnesium status and supplementation influence vitamin D status and metabolism. Results from a randomized trial. Let's see. Let me find the magnesium supplementation increased the 25-hydroxy D3 concentration, your blood vitamin D. Magnesium increased the vitamin D level. When baseline 25-hydroxy D concentrations were close to 30 nanograms per milliliter, but decreased it when baseline 25-hydroxy D was higher from 30 to 50. Let me just go to the conclusions. Our findings suggest that optimal magnesium status may be important for optimizing 25-hydroxy D status. Seems pretty important. Let's see. Now, I have another video on this channel showing how vitamin A depletes magnesium in a cell study. That's weird. Isn't that a weird connection? That vitamin A would deplete magnesium? Vitamin A raises calcium levels, causes you to turn into a statue, a living statue, and it also depletes your potassium levels, which is how it negatively affects your energy and your anxiety and your depression and your sleep. It's not good stuff, folks. Very bad. So we have magnesium raising vitamin D levels. And I didn't dig that deep into the research to find the one where low magnesium would predict low vitamin D. But just think, especially those of you who live in low sun areas, or just, whatever life is throwing at you, maybe you can't get outside much. And you go to your doctor and they test your vitamin D and they say, you're low. You need to take vitamin D rat poison pills. And you go, I don't want to do that, but how am I going to fix my vitamin D levels, Dr. Smith? Well, first of all, they don't have to be crazy high. Like Australian lifeguards who were out in the sun every day were running a vitamin D level of 59. Any of these people out there who are saying you have to run your vitamin D levels at 70, 80, 90, 110, they are trying to kill you. If you get them up there, people in my world can get it up there with light and doing zinc and magnesium and doing all the things that we're talking about. Ooh, looks like my internet's a bit. I saw myself get all, max headroom slowing down. Anyway, let me repeat that. You can fix a lot of your vitamin D level by fixing your zinc deficiency, fixing your magnesium deficiency, fixing your vitamin A toxicity. And this is what we do. If you want the do-it-yourself version of my approach to this, it's in the Love Your Liver program at members.nutritiondetective.com. If you want to work with me and do the testing and get guidance from my years of experience with fixing these things, that's the testing and consultation that can be found at nutritiondetective.com. We just came out with a new zinc liquid so people can really fine-tune their zinc dosing. That's at the store at nutritiondetective.com. Zinc is really, really important. The only zinc I generally use is zinc picolinate or picolinate, however you want to say it. That's what I use. That's what works. I don't care what anybody else says. I have seen far too many tests to care what anybody else says. I've tried zinc orotate. I've tried zinc glycinate. I've tried zinc OptiZinc, zinc L-monomethionine. I've tried them all. Tested them on myself, tested them on other people. They don't work. Same thing with magnesium. Topical magnesium for 95% of the people. Magnesium you absorb through your skin. Now that could be the spray. That could be the lotion. We have one in development. It'll be the most potent on the market. Almost ready. Almost ready. Don't bother Julie. Don't email Julie asking her when. It's in development. Lotion, spray, baths, foot soaks. Doing them right is the best way to get your magnesium up. Not magnesium sulfate, not Epsom salts. You don't need to throw more sulfate in the system. Don't do that. Magnesium chloride. And if you have a problem with topical magnesium chloride, you probably have a massive potassium deficiency, which potassium deficiency can be caused. Oh, wait, let me go get that one. Where is it? So I have a study. Oh, come on. Let me find it. It's a study showing that. Oh, renal. Okay, there. Wait. There it is. Got it. Renal potassium wasting induced by vitamin D. What does that mean? Losing potassium from the body through the kidneys induced by vitamin D supplements. What are some of the really common symptoms of potassium deficiency? The ones that people notice in their daily lives? Well, what causes potassium deficiency in people's daily lives? Well, their copper toxicity is one. Vitamin D supplements is another. Vitamin A toxicity is another. What are the most common symptoms of potassium deficiency in our daily lives that you're experiencing possibly currently or you have in the past? Well, fatigue, insomnia, anxiety, depression, irritability, and heart palpitations are another one. Especially if you go to bed and you lay down in bed and you can't shut your mind off and your heart's pounding in your chest, definitely potassium deficiency. But the potassium deficiency is a secondary problem due to those toxicities. The potassium deficiency is something that can be addressed quite quickly if done properly, and it can give you a lot of relief, maybe 50% relief very quickly. And then long term, we work on the toxicities, which are the root cause of the deficiency. This is how we do it. When people finally take me seriously about potassium, and I'm not telling you out there to just go and down pills and pills and pills and pills of potassium. I didn't say that. I did not say that. I have very specific limits on potassium in the Love Your Liver program. And supplements you must take care with because they're stronger and they don't come in a food matrix. So they're a little more like they'll just kind of like explode in your system and throw potassium in there. And too much potassium can be a problem. Anything can be a problem. People can get zinc toxicity. For those of you out there who think you're going to go and take a ton of zinc to raise your D levels, just so you know, 30 milligrams a day is the limit I put on people who are not testing. Zinc toxicity is a legit thing. Most of what people think is copper deficiency, if you look in the research, almost all the copper deficiency studies are in people who are taking way too much zinc. So is it zinc toxicity or is it copper deficiency? You can get zinc toxicity, but you need it. So why do we test blood and hair? So we don't mess up people. This is what we do. We take care in what we do. So I think that's all I have on the vitamin D topic today. I had a great testimonial. Wait, let me go find it. Let me go find that testimonial. She just sent it to me yesterday. Or a couple days ago, sorry. Doesn't really matter. There it is. Okay, so here is a testimonial from Nurit, who has had me on her podcast several times. Here's what she wrote. The title of it was "Bye Bye Liver Spots, Farewell Cold Feet." Starting off well. Here we go. Some of you know that I have been doing the reduced vitamin A diet and the Love Your Liver program with Dr. Garrett Smith of nutritiondetective.com. Well, my liver spots are disappearing. They used to be a dark brown. Now they are a light faded brownish pink. Still can hardly believe it, but there it is. And today I was lost for 2 hours in my big, beautiful city, Budapest. It was 2 degrees Celsius and I wasn't even wearing boots, and I was not cold. I simply don't get cold anymore like I used to. If you know me, that is also hard to believe. And I can't remember when I last had a GERD attack. I don't care how long it takes. I ain't getting off this program. And she added, P.S. We forgot to tell you, Gabor, her husband, Gabor's eyesight has improved tremendously. His eyesight is now just like it was when he was 40. He's now 73. End quote. Improved eyesight. Improved thyroid function is all we could say about the not getting cold. What are we fixing here? Toxicities and deficiencies. What do they not? What do they want you to do? Take rat poison pills. Let me tell you what happens on a hair test when you take vitamin D supplements. Okay, this is where I figured out. This is where I first learned about vitamin D supplements being a problem. Was when I learned hair analysis. On a hair analysis, if you take vitamin D supplements for long enough, it will raise your calcium levels on the hair test, and it will depress your potassium levels. Calcium goes up, potassium goes down. In the hair analysis world, there is a ratio that they like to look at called the calcium to potassium ratio. The other name for that ratio is the thyroid ratio. When calcium goes really high and potassium goes really low, you get a very high calcium to potassium ratio. In the hair analysis world, that is an indicator of low thyroid function. What did I just tell you vitamin D does on the hair test? You can watch it happen. High calcium, low potassium. So what does that mean vitamin D supplements are directly working against? They are directly making you hypothyroid. That's what they do. What am I fixing? We're not having people take vitamin D, that's for sure. And they're getting warmer, and they're getting off thyroid medications and doing things of this nature. We must be doing something right. So let me look and see if we may we're already at 8:40. So just a reminder, if you're here and you're enjoying what you're seeing, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit the like button. If you're in the chat right now, it'd be really great if you X'd out of the chat and went and liked the video so other people, so it shows up on other people's feeds and stuff like that. If you watch this later, the way to help is to leave a comment, whether it's just comment or, whatever you want to say. And then we get more people learning about how we've all been duped by so-called vitamin science, which was first introduced by Merck and the Rockefellers, trying to prove that dairy had magical health qualities to it. What did they find? Calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin A. So now the calcium intakes that they suggest for people pretty much cannot be accomplished without dairy. Have you noticed that? You cannot eat enough calcium to get the RDA unless you eat very, very, very specific foods and lots of them to get enough calcium. That doesn't make sense. How in the world do cows get all that calcium? To have 4 times as much calcium in their milk than humans do, and they're just eating grass. And then vitamin A and vitamin D, which we're here debunking, basically. Don't follow Rockefeller vitamin science unless you want the results that they designed you to get out of that. So remember, super chats are enabled. So if you want I'm heading into questions now. So if you want your question answered or to come to the top of the priority list, because I only get through a couple questions because of how detailed I answer them. But if you want your question answered, do that super chat. We do appreciate it very much. And your question will go to the top of the queue. If you want an unlimited number of questions to ask me, that would be the inner circle inside the Nutrition Detective Network, where you can get as many questions answered as you want by me in a potentially more controversial manner than I'm allowed to do here on this channel. So controversial enough that Vimeo canceled my account. If you didn't know, I'm still working on getting the videos back up in the network. But yes, Vimeo, I was paying them to have an account, and all of my videos were private. These are the inner circle videos specifically that I'm talking about right now. All of my videos were private. I paid them. They canceled me, kicked me out. So you can imagine how valuable the information is in the inner circle if I'm being kicked out when I have a paid account and they're all private videos. Nothing was public. Interesting, right? Now we're over on Rumble now. Well, I'm mirroring this YouTube, just so you know, on Odyssey and Rumble. So you can find us either place if anybody decides to come after us again. So, okay. MD, first question says, hello, what do you think about microbiota transplant? So I'm assuming this is another term for fecal transplant. Fecal transplant being taking the poop from one person, a healthy person, supposedly, right? And how do you find those these days? Taking the poop from a healthy person, supposedly, and then putting it into another person. This could be done through, some places will basically make poop capsules. Yes, I'm serious. Some places will do like an enema and put it up that way. Some places only do it in the hospital, and other places, like, I mean, if you can do an enema at home, you could do a fecal transplant. It doesn't need to be a hospital thing. It would be good to run some tests on the person who's donating and make sure that they're healthy. Maybe make sure they don't have any sexually transmitted diseases and other things before that. That's a good idea. But what do I think of it? Well, so I have not done it myself. And I've talked to some people about it, and it sounds kind of like a lot of the health gurus out there, that people only seem to hear about the positive stories. And then over time, the negative stories start coming out. Because you may, if you have somebody who has, like we talk about in the program, in the probiotic section, about putrefactive dysbioses versus fermentative dysbioses, and so that's a bad condition of the microbiome of the gut, the bacteria in the gut. That's a dysfunctional, if you will, population. So you got too many of the bad bacteria and not enough of the good. Like a great way to create a dysbiosis, and this is all over the literature, would be to kill all your bifidobacterium. Okay? Great way to cause a dysbiosis long term. How do you kill all the bifidobacterium long term? You basically eat super high fat, like keto, or you eat carnivore, and you don't put in any carbs. Bifido kind of need carbs and fiber to survive. So if you don't put any in, they all die. And then you got to fix that. One of the biggest changes so babies are generally you think of babies and kids as being healthy, right? Do you know that when you're born, you have the highest bifido count you're ever going to have? And what they find is that as people get older, their bifido count goes down and down and down and down and down. And then you have people out there doing extreme all meat diets or super high 70% fat diets. God, that sounds disgusting. And then they crush their biome and they get what's called a putrefactive dysbiosis. And then they try to go back to eating some of these things, and they're trapped. They can't eat carbs without having major symptoms and crashes and all this stuff. So what I'm getting at is, if you take somebody may seem kind of healthy, but they may have a really messed up gut biome. This can happen. Just remember, you cannot judge a book by its cover. It's like when people try to judge people's health by aesthetics. Aesthetics does not imply health. Let's say you have somebody with a really strong constitution, a younger person, 20-something, let's say male or woman, with a really good constitution. They were given a very good constitution by their parents. Let's say they just have really strong genetics, okay? And they start doing stupid things with their health. Like, I don't know, taking Accutane, using Retin-A, doing crazy fad diets to get super lean. And people are looking at them going, wow, this guy he's athletic, he's really lean, he looks really good. I want to do what he's doing. And then they get ruined. Don't go to 20-somethings for your health and fitness advice unless you want to be broken, because they're usually doing stupid things. It's just the way it is. They're 20-something. They don't know jack. So, fecal transplant. I have not done it. I mean, it's super easy to do. If you wanted to do the enema version, this is what I have. If somebody wanted to do it, I'm not advising this. I'm not recommending this. I'm describing a process that I read about on the internet, and it makes sense. So, a person decides who their healthy donor is. So you have the unhealthy person who wants to fix their gut biome, and you have the healthy person who is donating. They would take the donation of poop. You buy a blender specifically for this process because you're going to toss it afterwards. I mean, unless you like, using a blender after that for other things like food. I wouldn't do that. Blenders are cheap. Buy a cheap blender. So you put the donation in the blender, you put some water in the blender, you blend it. You then run that mixture of water and feces through a coffee filter to take out the chunks. And then you take that liquid, you put it in an enema bag, and you run an enema, and you retain it as long as possible. You hold it in as long as you can. And that maybe if you have enough left, you repeat the process. That's the process. People are paying, they're being charged $10,000 to do it in a hospital. You don't need to do that. I mean, dogs are going around eating other dogs' crap. Like, you don't need to pay they're trying to turn it into something in a hospital where they're going to ruin it. They're going to do so many things to it that they're going to ruin it. I mean, it's just, but it shows the power of probiotics. And so, okay, so let me tell you something about toxic bile theory and your gut biome. So the most toxic bile acids are secondary bile acids. They are created in your gut by your gut bacteria. The more messed up, and so toxic bile acids, toxic secondary bile acids, the most toxic ones, can then, remember, 95% of the bile in a normal person is reabsorbed. It's like this loop. It goes, liver makes the bile goes into the intestines. In the intestines, some of it leaks out. That's cholestasis. That's what we fix. But 95% of it is said to be reabsorbed. It goes right into the portal vein. It goes right back to the liver. Liver pulls out all the bile from the blood, makes it into new bile, new toxic bile, and sends it in the loop. Okay, we want to get rid of as much of that toxic bile as possible. That's how we fix people. It doesn't just mean you do a bunch of things to dump bile, because you can make yourself feel real bad doing that. But if you're new to this, you may not understand that this whole process, the toxic bile and your toxic liver is the root of all your health problems. And fixing that toxic bile problem without making things worse is how you will get better. So the toxic bile is the root of all your health problems, and getting rid of it is the solution to your health problems. But if you push too hard, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And that's what we talk about, is this is not a game. You're already suffering because of your toxic bile leaking into your bloodstream and getting places where it shouldn't. So don't make it worse by not knowing what you're doing. But you can go out and explore it on your own. Make all the same mistakes we did over the years, or you can join the Love Your Liver program at members.nutritiondetective.com and avoid all the mistakes, or at least avoid most of the mistakes. But fixing the gut biome, if you fix the gut biome and you make less toxic secondary bile acids, secondary bile acids cause cholestasis, aka toxic leaky bile. So if you can reduce the production of secondary bile acids, you reduce the cholestasis, you reduce your suffering. It also helps if you don't take toxic secondary bile acids by mouth, like UDCA and TUDCA. If you're taking ox bile, I mean, you're taking bile. There's rare times where that might be needed, but most of the time that's not the solution at all that you're looking for. You're just putting more bile in the system. Fixing a bile problem is not done by adding more bile to the system. But fixing the gut biome can make a huge impact. Soluble fiber, for example, apple pectin. Let me go find the study on apple pectin. Where is it? think this is it. Anyway, I found a study. I'm not going to go find it right now. Apple pectin reduced when they measured secondary bile acids in the blood, which is the worst place for them to be. Taking apple pectin reduced the secondary bile acids in the blood. How could it do that? Well, soluble fiber feeds your gut bacteria, certain gut bacteria. And if we are changing the dysbiosis, we can make less toxic secondary bile acids and less of them leak into the blood. And then you have this weird coincidence that apples have the highest pectin of all fruit. And we have the research showing, I had a whole video on this on the live stream about how apples are by far the healthiest fruit known to mankind. Do you think this is a coincidence? It's so weird how I pull up all these coincidences in the research. Like apple pectin reduces secondary bile acids, and apples have been shown basically in the research to be the healthiest fruit known to mankind over decades. These are not coincidences. And then sun fiber, which is something we've been getting into lately. We should be having a sun fiber product out soon enough. Organic sun fiber, by the way. Sun fiber has been shown to reduce secondary bile acids in the blood. That's a very good thing. And it's also been shown to help relieve constipation for many people at the right dose, which would mean that more bile is going into their intestines rather than into their blood. This is what we want. This is toxic bile theory in action. Knowing how much to take or getting guidance on how much to take, that's what we do in the Love Your Liver program. Some people benefit from it, some people don't. You need to be able to figure out which one you are. Figuring out your health is mainly your duty. Think of me as a guide. I help focus your energy and tell you, with experience, what is right and what is working well and what is not. And then people are their own. You are your own N equals 1. You are your own experiment, and your experiment is unlike anybody else. So, fecal transplant, actually with probiotics, what I tell people is try it and see. Because the science on gut bacteria, I have so many people who take those gut bacteria tests. I don't do them because I didn't find them useful. They do the gut bacteria test and they take the custom probiotic designed for them by the company or whatever, and they don't get any better. Because throwing seeds on the ground, if you don't feed them right, or if you poison the seeds through your diet, the seeds don't grow. That's what taking probiotics is throwing seeds on the ground and hoping they grow. Well, how about if we make the soil right first, not toxic, put the minerals in it that it needs, and then the seeds grow very well. So, that's fecal transplants. It's basically a probiotic injection, and could be wonderful, could be not so good. That's my answer. Probiotics are probiotics, fecal transplant, it's a try it and see. Can't tell you. I'm not going to say it's all good or bad because different people have different experiences with it very much. And it would absolutely depend on who you chose to donate, right? Because they're going to give you whatever their dysbiosis is, for better or worse. Okay. Next question. Did we get any? Let me scroll down, just making sure I didn't see any super chats. Nope. Okay, cool. Let's see. Here we go. Doctor. I get a patch of recurring shingles on my lower sacral area. It is always in the same area and erupts every 1 to 4 months. Any ideas how to stop this? At least we think it's shingles. Doctors are not sure. Well, there's a funny coincidence about the SI area, the sacroiliac area. So what I'm going to do here, So could it be related to vitamin A toxicity? Um, I'm not even going to go through all the studies here. I'm going to put the search because you guys can look and see on the research. They'll be like, sacroiliitis is a very rare side effect of isotretinoin, aka 13-cis-retinoic acid, aka something that your body turns the vitamin A that you eat into. Your body turns some of the vitamin A you eat into Accutane, aka isotretinoin, aka 13-cis-retinoic acid. You eat vitamin A, your body turns some of it into Accutane. If you haven't learned about the side effects of Accutane and how deadly it is and how it's ruining young people's like sex lives, and we're trying to fix it, we are the people who fix it. Takes a long time. Don't give your kids Accutane. Hopefully, if you're here, you already know this. If you got put on Accutane, I'm sorry. Spread the word. Help others to not take this straight up poison. So anyway, did I put that in there? Oh, I see the super chat. I will get to you. Did I put the link in? That's what I wanted to see. The search. Yes, I did. Okay. So basically, let's just run through some of these papers. Just the titles. We don't even need to go into it. So think about sacroiliitis. If you are constantly, let me give you a hint. If you are constantly going to the chiropractor or the osteopath or the massage therapist and everybody's going, well, your SI's out again, your SI's out again, your SI's out again. Do you know that after people work with me long enough, we often have chiropractors commenting to people, "Oh, your spine is doing so much better. It's hardly anything's out now." And all we're doing is making them less toxic and giving them better mineral status. And their spine is fixing itself, or it's not getting as angry or out of alignment. Well, let's just read some of the titles of this study in cis-retinoic acid and sacroiliitis. So I'm going to connect this to the area, right? Isotretinoin-induced sacroiliitis, case series of 4 patients and a systemic review of the literature. Next one, sacroiliitis during isotretinoin treatment, causal association or coincidence? Let's go advanced. I don't know why it's saying PubMed. Sorry, that's the same one. And sacroiliitis after use of oral isotretinoin, association with acne fulminans or adverse effect. Let's just get one more. Oh, and now this is a great one. Let me go over this one. Analysis of musculoskeletal side effects of oral isotretinoin treatment, a cross-sectional study. But let me just add one more thing. For those of you who think that somehow magically the isotretinoin they give you in a pill is different than what you make in your body, I'm sorry, you have been massively misled. They are the same chemical. Do you understand that the scientists, to figure out what vitamin A did in your body, they isolated the 13-cis-retinoic acid and they said, we have this compound. And then they used the same science that they used to figure this out to make the same compound. And then they use the same science to identify, is this isotretinoin, is this 13-cis-retinoic acid, is it the same thing that we found in the body? It's the same stuff. Stop letting gurus tell you that these are different. They're not different. I fix people who poison themselves with food vitamin A alone, and they have the same symptoms sometimes that Accutane people have. It's the same poison. So anyway, this is a fun one. Here we go. So these are people who took Accutane. Okay. Musculoskeletal side effects, pain. Of the 94 patients, 71 were female and 23 were male. 47.9% of the patients had arthralgia. That's joint pain. 53.2% had myalgia. That's muscle pain. 70.2% of them had low back pain. 11.7% had sacroiliitis, SI joint inflammation. And 4.3% had tendinopathy. That's degeneration of their tendons. 37.8% of 68 patients with low back pain had inflammatory pain, and 62.2% had mechanical pain. Bone marrow edema consistent with sacroiliitis was detected by sacroiliac MRI in 11 patients with inflammatory back pain. The median total cumulative dose of isotretinoin was significantly higher in patients with low back pain than in patients without low back pain. So people who didn't have low back pain had taken less isotretinoin than the people who had more back pain. Okay. Let's go to the conclusion. Low back pain is one of the very common complications of isotretinoin. It can be mostly mechanical or inflammatory. Isotretinoin-induced low back pain is dose-related, dose-dependent response. The more poison you take, the worse your problem gets. And inflammatory back pain without sacroiliitis is also frequent. Frequent. Key word. So imagine this. Your shingles, virus theory is kind of thrown in the trash around here. What your body is pushing out at that spot is toxic bile, probably full of retinoic acid, like 13-cis-retinoic acid, all-trans retinoic acid. It's pushing poison out through your skin. The poison, retinoic acids, are used as chemical peels, and they eat away people's faces. That's what a chemical peel does. It's eating away the top layers of cells, causing, as they say in the research, a controlled wound. So imagine that if the same toxicity that was causing the sacroiliitis that is all over the isotretinoin research was then trying to escape your body via your skin in that area, and that just happens to be your place, your weak link in the chain, or where you accumulate this poison, and then it's trying to come out of your skin. If you think of the shingles as a detox of that area, your body is pushing the poison out and it's eating away. This is why we call it toxic bile. It is eating away at your tissue. It is causing you a wound on its way out. That is what I believe is going on. So what you might do is look into like charcoal poultices over that area. You want to suck the poison out, basically. One of the things we do is we mix charcoal with lotion. Regular lotion is fine. Magnesium lotion is fine. Mix them like this. The amount of lotion you use a little less of the charcoal. So if it's like a teaspoon of lotion, use maybe I used to say 1-to-1. I don't think 1-to-1. It's too much charcoal. About 3/4 of the amount. So maybe 3/4 of a teaspoon of charcoal. Mix those two together. Put it on like a paste. Leave it on at least 20 minutes. Then you can wash it off. You could leave it on if you're getting pain relief. You can just leave it on until you want to take it off. Or you could wash it off, wipe it off. It's still going to be messy. It's charcoal, but it doesn't stain. You can always get it out, is what I'm saying. It's not a permanent stain. If you work hard enough, you can get the charcoal out. And then you could refresh it after about 20 minutes. So you could keep refreshing it over and over to suck out more toxic stuff, more toxic bile, more poison, vitamin A in that area. Okay, so let me get this question. We have N. Rustica. Sometimes I take 1,000 units of vitamin E tocopherols. It 100% alleviates burning across shoulder blades. What is this? Male, 55-year-old yoga body. I may be an under. Okay. Unders. This is a topic that we go into in the Love Your Liver program. Unders have trouble storing toxins. They tend to have lots of toxins floating around in their blood because they're just not good at storing them. This is why when you see unwell people, they usually tend to go one of two ways. They either, as they get sicker, they go overweight. Those people are very good at storing toxins. Underweight people are not very good at storing toxins, i.e. making body fat for storing fat-soluble toxins like, vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin D supplements. So undertypes are not good at storing. So What did I tell you vitamin E does earlier in this broadcast? Vitamin E can store up to 20 times more vitamin A in your liver. So if you imagine this, we take an undertype who's not good at storing. It'd be just like somebody who's not fast at running. Like they can run, they're just not fast. So you may not be good at storing toxic stuff with your normal day-to-day function in your body. And especially if you're really toxic, like it becomes harder to shove toxins into storage because unders don't have a lot of body fat. They don't have a lot of anything. They're underweight, right? There's not a lot of storage. As we get unders less toxic, we're seeing that they're able to start gaining weight in a good way, which is cool. And then we see overweight people as they do the things that they need to lose weight, or the people who there's think of how many people you've met, people out there who say that I can't lose weight, or they try to lose weight and they work really hard. And let's say these people are being honest. That I don't tell people they're lying to me about weight loss. I can't stand people who do that. I assume that people are telling me the truth. And so and I've seen it before where people will do diet after diet, and the diet works great the first time. It works about half as good the second time, and it hardly works at all the third time. Why is it not working anymore? Because the toxins are so concentrated in the body fat that the body is scared to death of losing that fat, because what's it going to do when you dissolve that fat, when you empty out that fat cell? You're going to dump all of that toxicity into your system, into your bloodstream. This is why weight loss gets so hard for people. Okay. Weight loss becomes difficult when the body becomes more and more toxic, and your body will not let those toxins out because it will hurt you. And then as we get people less toxic on the program, doing less estrogenic type things, because estrogen loves to make body fat. This is why women are smoother than men. Ladies, I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. We love you for your estrogen in certain ways, but too much estrogen in men is bad. Too much estrogen in women is bad. And women have more. So when women get too estrogenic, they put on body fat like crazy. You can think of it as evolutionary for babies to have babies and to have some extra body fat. But in our modern world, it's getting crazy in terms of the amount of estrogenic stuff. So copper's estrogenic. Vitamin A is estrogenic. I haven't looked up vitamin D. I wonder if vitamin D supplements are estrogenic. Let's go check that out. Wait, let me look up estradiol. Well, here's NCBI from the national. The NCBI is the PubMed people. I'm just going to read a little quote here about vitamin D toxicity. Quote, these include neurological symptoms like confusion, apathy, agitated, irritability, and in severe cases, stupor and coma. Gastrointestinal symptoms include abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, constipation, peptic ulcers, and pancreatitis from malignant calcifications. Take vitamin D, you are turning yourself into a calcium statue. Don't do it. Renal symptoms, kidney symptoms manifest polyuria, frequent urination. Anybody out there have that problem? Polydipsia and nephrolithiasis, kidney stones. Gosh, know anybody with kidney stones these days? Let's see. Here's a paper, vitamin D, vitamin or hormone. Do you know that bile salts, bile acids are also called hormones? Isn't that weird? No, they didn't talk about estrogen in there. Oh, I forgot that one thing. Hold on. Where is it? I'm trying to find, there's a paper where they were showing, oh, there we go. Okay. So we'll just connect this one more time. I'm going back to the original topic of vitamin A toxicity and vitamin D deficiency. Here's the title of the paper. I'll come back to the questions, don't worry. Ultraviolet irradiation. This would be sunlight or UV light. Ultraviolet irradiation of human skin causes functional vitamin A deficiency. Preventable by all trans-retinoic acid pre-treatment. Oh, so you mean if you put retin-A is all trans-retinoic acid, the same compound that when veterans put it on their face, hoping the study was trying to prevent skin cancer, they had to stop the study because too many of the veterans died early. They had to shut down the study because too many of the veterans were dying early. Oh, we're going to prevent the functional vitamin A deficiency in your skin by putting retin-A on it. It might kill you. Yeah. But at least you won't have a functional vitamin A deficiency in your skin because we fix skin conditions all the time. If you didn't see my psoriasis video a couple back, you should watch that one. So what do they use to get rid of psoriasis on the skin a lot, or psoriasis for eczema? Don't they use ultraviolet bulbs? And ultraviolet light causes a functional vitamin A deficiency in the skin, and the light helps relieve the skin symptoms. And vitamin D, if you reduce the vitamin A, vitamin D goes up. Are you putting this all together? Why take rat poison when you can just do these things? I'm super excited for my next vitamin D blood test. Super excited. I got to get on that. So, back to the vitamin E question. You take vitamin E and it relieves the burning across your shoulder blades. It's taking it. So the symptoms. So how would you get symptoms in your shoulder blades, between your shoulder blades? This would be something in the system, in the bloodstream, that is causing you inflammation right there. Just like the gentleman with the sacroiliitis, he was concentrating the toxins in that one spot. Do I know why each person has their weak link in their chain in a certain area? No, I don't. I have no idea. We can theorize all day, but it doesn't really matter because all you got to do is decrease the toxicity. So there are studies out there, and there are people out there, sadly misguided people, who are thinking that vitamin E is good for fixing vitamin A toxicity. Why do they think this? Because in the research, vitamin E has been shown to reduce the symptoms of vitamin A toxicity. Well, vitamin E doesn't speed up detox, so what's happening? The vitamin E is helping to take the vitamin A out of the blood and store it in your body fat or your fatty liver. And yes, underweight people can absolutely have fatty liver. You ever seen a really skinny person with a really big, hard belly? What do you think they're storing in that liver and in that hard belly fat, which is hard belly fat is the worst to have. What color is it? If you've ever seen it, it's yellow. Coincidences everywhere. Bile is yellow. Vitamin A is yellow. So weird. Bitter things are yellow. Berberine is yellow. Turmeric is yellow. Carotenoids are yellow. So what the vitamin E is doing is it is taking the vitamin A out of your blood and storing it. So you have less symptoms in your blood. Your body will always try to choose the slow death over the quick death, right? Your body's smart. So storing, if your body cannot get rid of the toxins fast enough, people always go, well, why does the body store this? This doesn't make any sense. You ever notice how a lot of people they get, material goods in their life? People even do this. Think about your phone, the box your cell phone came in, or the box your shoes came in. Why are you keeping that? Can't get rid of it fast enough? Why do you think your body stores toxins? Because it can't get rid of them fast enough. So it has to do something. If it doesn't get rid of them, they go into the blood and they could kill you the quick death. So your body goes, well, I'd much rather have a slow death than a quick death. We can't get rid of these toxins fast enough. If we don't get rid of them, they go into the blood. And that could kill us. That could affect our brain. That could affect our heart. So what are we going to do? We're going to shove this stuff wherever it can go. This shoves lead into the bones, mercury and cadmium into the brain. It shoves fat-soluble toxins into your body fat and into your liver. This is how your body keeps you from dying from all the toxins you're exposed to. It stores them because it cannot get rid of them fast enough. Like, what do you do if you have too much work to do at school or your job? You just kind of put it to the side and you hope that you're going to catch up later, right? Because you not sleeping to finish the work might kill you if you did it long enough, right? So you store it. It's not a flaw in the system. This is your body not killing you, not allowing you to die. We're just exposed to too much toxicity to keep up, which is why the program, the Love Your Liver program, is not just a low vitamin A program. People make that mistake. It is the most encompassing thing I know about on the internet in terms of avoiding these toxins. Many toxins that people don't even know about, like, I don't know, vitamin D supplements, vitamin A. Not eating too much vitamin E. I'm not worried about vitamin E in foods. I'm not concerned about that. And so, Rustica, if you needed, so this is like something we do. Let's say this pain between your shoulder blades was like, let's say it was going to prevent you from going to work, or it was really ruining your quality of life. And let's say you start getting on the detox program with us, but you still get the symptom. What I would do if I was in your situation, I would say figure out the smallest dose of vitamin E that gives you the most benefit. So we're trying to use the least of it. You can still use it. It's a crutch. It's a Band-Aid. But it's helping you to have a quality of life while you fix the deeper problem. So if you found that one day you don't need it, or 2 days you don't need it, or 3 days you don't need it, or you could try getting a 500 unit pill or a 200 unit pill, and you were able to get enough relief from that, that would be a better situation than doing more. So we can start skipping days. We can start taking less. We try to wean off of it as we get better. Remember, people get addicted to toxins. Like, if you have a true, serious, bad alcoholic and they stop drinking all of a sudden, they could die. They could die because their liver starts dumping all that toxic bile into their system, and they're just acetaldehyde everywhere. You can store alcohol in your liver. It's called ethyl fatty acid esters. And your body tries desperately to get rid of them as quick as it can. It even moves vitamin A out of the liver into your blood to store the alcohol away in your liver. It prioritizes storing the ethyl fatty acid esters in your liver over retinol esters. It kicks out the retinol esters. So, yeah, you can use the vitamin A. You can use the vitamin E. It is not something I suggest on a regular basis. But if you had a tool that could help you with your symptoms for now, and you used it properly, which would mean the lowest dose that gives you the most relief, and your goal over time is to skip taking it. Hopefully you're feeling better and you don't need to take it. Or you're able to take smaller doses over time until you don't need it anymore. This is what we do here. We don't yank people. We don't yank we do not yank out people's crutches, right? If you're going around on crutches because you hurt your ankle and somebody comes and says, you can't take that, and they yank the crutches away, you're going to fall on your face. You're going to get hurt worse. That's dumb. I had a woman come to me into the program. She was so sick, one of the few foods that she actually tolerated was mangoes. She couldn't eat very many food. I mean, she was eating like 2 or 3 different foods, and one of them was mangoes. And she's like, this is one of the few things I tolerate. And she was in the network, and she told people what she was eating and trying to do better. And everybody started hammering on her. You got to stop eating the mango. You got to stop eating the mango. And I came in and I said, if this is all you can eat, I know starvation will kill you for sure. So just like I'm telling you, that was her crutch. Like, you got to eat, right? That's not really a crutch, but she was using a food that a very high vitamin A food as her crutch. And I said, do the program. You will get less toxic over time. You will be able to eat more foods over time. And you will be able to phase out the mango over time. And guess what happened? You know, one thing people love about my work, and I think this is the coolest thing that people tell me about it, is that people say, what you said was going to happen was exactly what happened. And that's for better or worse. I warn people, I tell them, here's the good stuff that you can expect. But if the bad stuff happens, here's how to recognize it. Most practitioners don't ever tell you the bad things because they don't want you to be scared. I'm not here to make you not scared. I'm here to tell you what you might feel if things are going bad so you stop doing them. Zinc can really flare up copper detox in people at super small doses for some people. So should those people, like the people on the internet who are like, you need to take X amount of milligrams of zinc a day, and they're just like that for everybody. Why did I just make a liquid zinc? So people could fine tune their dosing down to the 2 milligram. It's 2 milligrams a drop. Seriously fine tune your dosing. So you get the dose that's right for you, not just a 15 milligram, 30 milligram, 50 milligram pill. We do things differently. We get different results. But yeah, that vitamin E thing, you got your concepts and ideas on what to do with that. But if you're not detoxing, if you're not getting rid of the poison out of your system, you're just going to have to keep using it. Okay. So Ramon, my regular super chatter Ramon, says, what could it be that sometimes I can drink a beer or apple cider vinegar on an empty stomach, and other times it causes brief, about 5 minutes, but extreme pain? Thanks. Okay. I'm sorry. I forgot to say thank you to Rustica for that super chat. Thank you very much. And then Ramon, what is happening in the times when first of all, acetic acid, vinegar is acetic acid. I'm not going anti-vinegar here, but there is a significant amount of research out there suggesting that acetic acid is not really that good for people. Okay. Vinegar is a very dilute form of it, but I mean, think about what vinegar is, right? I mean, so you take a sugary liquid, first it would turn into alcohol because of the yeast and bacteria in it. Think of alcohol as like the pee and poop of yeast and bacteria. They're processing it. They're using their own ADH, or they're using their own. They're processing it, and that's basically their waste products. And we're consuming it. And then after alcohol, it goes to vinegar, right? If you leave wine around long enough, it will eventually turn into vinegar. So vinegar is like decomposed sugar, waste product of yeast. Do we really want to eat decomposed sugar and yeast pee and poop? Probably not a great idea. So But can these, I mean, you're taking acetic acid into your stomach. Could it just be the acetic acid bothering things? Possibly, but your stomach's really well designed for acid. What the apple cider vinegar is probably doing is causing some sort of bile dump that is going backwards up into your stomach. Same thing with the alcohol. It's just probably bile going back up into your stomach. And not having food there, food is a buffer for bile. That's why the body likes to dump bile into meals, is because the food soaks it up, and then you don't have this nasty, toxic, hot lava bile just coating your intestines by itself. That's why your body likes to dump bile with food or with soluble fiber, because it knows it has a buffer to get rid of it. That's why you have a gallbladder, is to store your bile for when you have food or soluble fiber come through. That's why you don't just trickle out bile all the time. But those of you who have had your gallbladder removed because your bile was so toxic, it ate away the very bag in your body that was designed to hold it. Think of how toxic that bile is. It ate away, it ruined your gallbladder, the sac that God designed to hold your toxic bile. That's how toxic the bile was. So if you don't have a gallbladder, then the bile is just trickling out into your guts. And if you're going to do things like soluble fiber or food or whatever, generally the spreading it out more is better in that situation for sure. Like spreading it out into 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. The more you spread it out, the more it matches your bile flow, because you don't have a gallbladder. So you're just a trickle all day. Anyway, but why does it cause pain? Something. I mean, the beer is not dissolving your stomach. I mean, the ACV, apple cider vinegar, is very weak acetic acid. It's not dissolving your stomach. It's triggering something. So let me go look that up. Let me go see. Let's go look up acetic acid bile. Oh, sorry, I didn't. Whoa. You hear me say that, and you know something's coming. Oh wow. I don't want people to misinterpret this. This is kind of weirding me out. Acetic acid sclerotherapy. Let's get into sclerotherapy in a second. Acetic acid sclerotherapy for treatment of a bile leak from an isolated bile duct after laparoscopic cholecystectomy. So let's go over that. Let's hit some of these words. Okay, so we're talking about acetic acid. That's what's in vinegar. Vinegar is typically like 5% acetic acid, and the rest is water and all the other things that give it flavor, right? Sclerotherapy. I used to do sclerotherapy for spider veins and stuff like that. Sclerotherapy, I just want to get the definition right. I'm just looking that up right now. Treatment as for varicose veins involving the injection of a sclerosing solution into vessels or tissues. Okay. It involves an injection of material into a blood vessel or a bile duct in order to make it harden and shrink. So think of it as like if you don't know spider veins or varicose veins, right? They're blood vessels where the valves have broken. Varicose veins are like hemorrhoids or varicose veins of your butt, as an example. But varicose veins, spider veins, the blood is stagnant there because the valves are not working and the blood is not moving through them as it should. So they can't fix these veins. So one of the approaches is to inject a solution that basically causes the blood vessel to kind of scar, harden, and shrink. Right? Think of it as like you're turning that blood vessel from a grape into a raisin. Okay, so nothing's going to flow through that. It actually scars in a way. It scars shut. So then the blood is not in there anymore because it all just pushed it out as it scarred shut. Yeah. Probably they're using really good things for you to make your blood vessels scarify shut. Okay. So then, So they used acetic acid to cause this scarring, hardening, fibrosing shutdown of a bile leak from a bile duct, right? What are we talking about here? Cholestasis, leaky bile. So they did a gallbladder removal, cholecystectomy. They took out the gallbladder. Okay. But they apparently damaged a bile duct, and now the bile duct was leaking. And so they went in and they injected acetic acid through the bile duct to scarify and fibrose the bile duct shut. Okay. Does that sound like acetic acid is really good for the liver and the bile ducts? And I'm telling you that whatever you're with that, like that apple cider vinegar on an empty stomach, and you're getting bile going backwards up into your stomach. And we just talked about how they used acetic acid to shut down bile ducts, which would make bile go the wrong way. Tracking? Beer, alcohol, I believe, in younger people does tend to increase bile dumping, and in older people, it slows it down. I have a study on mice where it shows that young mice, their ALDH sped up when they drank alcohol, and in older mice, their ALDH slowed down when they drank alcohol. And I've talked about this before. It explains hangovers. Younger people don't really get hangovers because they don't make as much acetaldehyde because their ALDH runs faster. And then as they get older and they do the wrong things, their ALDH slows down and they make more acetaldehyde and they get more hangovers. That's how it works. So I also correlate ALDH to bile production. So higher ALDH tends to go with more bile production, and lower ALDH tends to go with less bile production. But the goal is not just to do stupid things to raise your ALDH either. A lot of toxins increase ALDH. Don't want to do that. Like cut off your nose to spite your face. But anyway, that's what I believe is going on, Ramon. You're dumping bile, and it's going the wrong direction from the alcohol or from the apple cider vinegar. So I definitely wouldn't do that stuff on an empty stomach. And apple cider vinegar is just down the way from, apple cider vinegar is what comes after apple cider. So if you're having alcohol or vinegar trigger this bile dumping, that's not showing you good signs of those things. Okay? That's what I would say there. Wait, why is this not? There it is. So let me just make sure I didn't miss anything because I don't want to miss anything again. So Renas asks, what are your thoughts on cold showers? Lots of people saying that it's healthy and beneficial for the body. I have mixed feelings on cold exposure. Purposeful cold exposure. In Chinese medicine, they say that cold is for dead people, right? They like everything warm. We are warm-blooded animals, right? And in Chinese medicine, they say cold is for dead people. They don't. You go in Chinese medicine, they don't eat cold foods. Everything's generally trying to. I mean, unless people have excess heat, which is a condition in Chinese medicine, you just don't do cold things. Okay. I believe so. So cold. Let me preface this. I did do the Wim Hof method, the cold exposure and the breathing, and the breath holds and all that stuff. For a while. I had a pool an above ground pool in the backyard. In the winter, it would get cold, and I would go in there, and I loved the mental aspects of the cold. I think we live very soft lives, and by doing things that are uncomfortable, it makes us tougher, and that's very good for us. Our lives are too soft, and that's why everybody's got such weak minds, is because our lives are too soft. So I really loved the feeling of doing cold plunges, cold exposure in the water. And I've always been fairly cold tolerant. Maybe it's the Scandinavian in me. But cold tends to slow things down. When we hear about, let's say, people doing cold exposure, or let's say Joe Rogan going and doing the cryo stuff. Like, what is the cryotherapy, where they go in like the container, the whatever you want to call it, the pod, where it goes down to some crazy low temperature for a couple minutes. And then people are saying, "Oh, my inflammation went down." Why? What did the cold do? Why do the Wim Hof people sometimes say, "My autoimmune condition is going away"? But if I stop doing the cold showers or the cold plunges, it comes right back and it's worse than it was before. And I have to work harder to get it to go away again. What is the cold doing? What I believe the cold does. Well, what do we know about heat and bile dumping? I'm not going to find the research right now, but heat in general causes us to dump more bile. Okay. Can we then assume that the opposite is probably true? If heat increases bile production and bile dumping, what does cold do? Cold decreases it. What is causing people to have excess inflammation in their system or autoimmune conditions? The bile that they're making and dumping is super toxic and it's leaking into their bloodstream. How could you make them leak less bile into their bloodstream? You could slow down their production of bile. What if cold does that? Like I said, we know heat increases bile production and dumping. So why wouldn't we assume cold does the opposite? So what they're doing in a way is the cold is kind of, in my opinion, the cold is bottling up their bile in their liver. It's not coming out. They're still making it, but it's not coming out. And so they feel better. The problem is all that the toxic bile that's not getting out of them is going to break. The dam is going to break at some point, and it's going to come out. I mean, Wim Hof, for all the stuff he's doing supposedly for his health, he doesn't look that great to me. He's kind of getting the nose of an alcoholic. You know what I mean? Go look. And I'm not trying to be mean to the guy. I like the cold plunges. I like them. I wish I didn't know this about them so I could maybe do them more. I'll probably get a pool at my next place and I will go in there in the winter. I do like being more resilient to the cold weather, which that does. But also for people who are really, let's say, hypothyroid and they start trying to do cold plunges and it makes them worse or they can't handle it, that's not good for them. Like, here's a tip. If you're doing cold exposure and it is really wrecking you, you're shivering, you're feeling horrible, like, don't do it. You're not ready for it. Make your health better first. Okay? Don't go and do it's like it would be like don't go and run a marathon if you didn't prepare for it. It'll just break you. Don't go and do cold exposure if you can't handle the cold. That's not going to help you. Okay? So, could you look in the studies and maybe they see in the studies, oh, they did a cold exposure and their inflammation went down. Well, they don't know anything about toxic bile theory. So, let me see. Let's just do a quick search. Cold. Okay. Let's see. Well, here's the paper. Cold-induced conversion of cholesterol to bile acids in mice shapes the gut microbiome and promotes adaptive thermogenesis. Okay. You got to catch something very important there. Cold-induced conversion of cholesterol to bile acids in mice shapes the gut microbiome. The bile acids shape your gut bacteria. And then your gut bacteria make the toxic secondary bile acids and all that stuff, which then can go back around and damage your liver. So you want all of it to be good. Fixing the gut biome is a huge part of fixing toxic bile because the secondary bile acids make the toxic. If you have bad ones, they make the bile leakage worse. So we work on both of them. We go over. If you're in the program listening to this and you haven't read the probiotics articles, just do a search in the network for putrefactive and fermentative, and you'll find the article. So let's see. Here we report that cold exposure in mice triggers a metabolic program that orchestrates lipoprotein processing in brown adipose tissue and hepatic conversion of cholesterol to bile acids via the alternative synthesis pathway. Why isn't it using the main pathway? Is the main pathway getting shut down from cold exposure? I'm just asking questions. So this process is dependent on hepatic liver induction of cytochrome P450, family 7, subfamily B, polypeptide 1, and results in increased plasma levels as well as fecal excretion of bile acids that is accompanied by distinct changes in gut microbiota and increased heat production. I want you to catch that. More bile in the blood, increased plasma levels of bile acids. That's bad. That's bad. Yes, there's more bile going out in the poop, fecal excretion, but higher plasma levels of bile is bad. And there is something called where was it? Biliary hold on. So the rise in body temperature, bilious fever, there it is. Bilious fever, let me put this link here. So they said the body temperature rose. Well, they used to talk about bile causing fevers. High amounts of bile in your blood would cause you to have a fever. Well, isn't that a temperature rise? And they just said that bile acids in the blood went up, and they said temperature went up. You know, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you got a hot flash, or you wake up all sweaty and hot, or just warm, you just dump bile in the middle of the night. That's why you're waking up all hot and uncomfortable. You dumped bile, and it's going into your bloodstream, and you're getting the symptoms of it. So that can be the warmest some hypothyroid people feel all day, right? They get their little hot flash with their bile dump at night. But anyway, so cold exposure, I'm torn, honestly. It's not fixing the problem. It may be slowing down the detox process, but it's also very good, in my opinion, for this. Right? Exercise and heat can cause more bile dumping, which, if done correctly, could help the detox process go faster, but if done incorrectly, will make people feel much, much worse. So if you're out there going aggressively at the sauna or the sun and the heat, and you're wondering why you feel like absolute butt, you're doing it to yourself. Stop pushing so hard. Don't do that. So you can push the good things too hard, and you could do things that slow things down, like vitamin E, storing vitamin A in the liver, making people feel better. People doing cold plunges all the time. And okay, let's just go over the Wim Hof method. I'll just go over the basics of what this does. So we have the cold exposure, which may slow down bile dumping. And when you slow down bile dumping the normal way, you tend to get more of it refluxing or going backwards into the blood. Isn't that what they just said? Cold exposure increased the bile in the blood. They just said it. Think of it as like a clogged pipe. If you can't get enough fluid through the clog, it builds up pressure in the back, and in your body, eventually something blows out. That's how it works. That's how pipe systems work. They just told you there was more bile in the blood. And they told you that body temperatures were going up. Too much bile in the blood causes fevers. Are you tracking? So people who do cold exposure can then start feeling warmer all the time. Gosh, did we just say that more bile in the blood raises your temperature? Is that a good thing? No, more bile in the blood is not a good thing. So we have this cold exposure that is potentially, you're not getting bile going the right way, and the bile is going back into the blood, which can have people feeling better in certain ways. And then you have people doing the Wim Hof breathing, which has been shown to increase norepinephrine production. Norepinephrine, the other word for epinephrine is adrenaline. They're doing a breathing process that increases adrenaline production, dumping, and cortisol production, your body's most powerful anti-inflammatory. So you're basically how I see the Wim Hof method helping people is they're changing their bile situation in their blood, and they're anti-inflaming themselves. They're basically dumping anti-inflammatories into their system, adrenaline and cortisol, and they feel less inflamed. This shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, people take corticosteroids, cortisone, and what's the other one? Betamethasone, and all these things to reduce their inflammation. You can dump your own into the system, right? You get an adrenaline dump, all your pain goes away. That is what I think is going on. Is that a long-term solution to slow down your detox pathway and to self-medicate with stress hormones? I don't think it's a good long-term solution. Am I against ever doing cold plunges? No, if I was doing them right now, if I had the pool to do it, I like them. I'd probably do them like twice a week. I definitely wouldn't be doing them every day. Like I said, I love the mental part of it. People love exercise for what it does to their mental stuff, right? And tons of people over-exercise, and they hurt themselves with it. So yeah, you can always overdo things. So that's my answer on that. Hope that clears it up. But yeah, it is whatever the cold exposure is doing, it is changing your bile acids. And if you change either the amount of bile acids in your blood or the composition, what I call the bile recipe that is leaking into your blood, you can change your symptoms greatly. I went over it before that when they had different thyroid conditions, they had hypothyroid, unmedicated, they had hypothyroid, medicated to normal, they had normal people, and then they had hyperthyroid. They all of them except the normal people had excess bile in their blood. And in the 3 different thyroid conditions, they had different bile acid compositions in their blood, which showed up as different conditions. That's what the cold it could be changing the bile acid recipe while it's also putting more bile into the blood. So that's what I got on that. Need to save that cold exposure paper. Okay. Let me just look and see that I didn't miss any other super chats. I'm going to wrap it up here. Unless somebody throws in a super chat real quick, I'm going to wrap this up. I got to get to my inner circle people. Okay. Matt, I saw your question about soluble fiber. I'm going to skip ahead to Matt because Matt's an old childhood buddy of mine. So joint pain, you were asking about charcoal. Do the charcoal externally, the charcoal lotion or the charcoal poultice on the joints. Suck that stuff out. Too much sun fiber, soluble fiber can dump bile, folks. Too much soluble fiber can cause you to dump too much bile, and you can make yourself feel worse. I'm constantly telling people to chill out on the soluble fiber. whether it's sun fiber or whether it's any other type of fiber, beans or oats or whatever, even apples. Like if you dump too much bile into your system and you're still leaking, if you still have health problems, you're leaking bile into your blood. Increasing that will show up as more symptoms. That's not a good idea. But what you can do if the bile is already out there, this is the problem with getting too much bile in your blood, folks. I don't know of anything that can take it out of your blood other than your own liver. We don't have a tool. We don't have a tool to save you. If I ever figure out what can go into your blood and pull the bile out of your blood, I will basically have figured out the cure to all disease. Or if anybody else figures that out. But right now, we don't have anything that can go in the blood and soak up bile and toxic vitamin A and toxic copper and just carry it out without causing problems. And what we also find is when we find things we think do this, the weird thing is the body then seems to dump more bile. It's like the body goes, ooh, you made space. You took out toxins. Now I'm going to dump even more because, hey, we want to get rid of this stuff so bad. You get rid of a little of it. It's like give them an inch, they take a mile. The liver's like, you took out some poison. Let's dump some more in because we got to get rid of this. And then people can feel worse that way. So it's really, it's a complicated system. This is why we say it's not a game. And if you go out there trying to do stuff, there was a big mistake that a lot of people make in the beginning of this that I made too. There was a study that showed that when people consumed, I don't know if it was rats or people, but when they drank alcohol, the liver level of vitamin A went down and the blood level of vitamin A went up. And they thought that this, and we all thought, I thought it back, this was years ago. I thought, oh, this means alcohol is increasing vitamin A detox. Oh, no. It is worsening cholestasis. They're leaking more vitamin A toxic bile into their blood. And the body is kicking vitamin A out of the liver and it's going into the blood to put ethyl fatty acid esters into the liver. Why would the body kick vitamin A out of the liver into the bile and it's leaking into the blood to put alcohol in the liver instead? How quick can let's go over how quick vitamin A can kill a person. Remember the slow death and the quick death? 1974 article, New York Times, a scientist, with giant air quotes, a scientist killed himself in 10 days by drinking a gallon of carrot juice a day and taking approximately 100,000 units of vitamin A day. He killed himself in 10 days with crazy amounts of vitamin A gallon of carrot juice. They said his body, in the article, they said his body was bright yellow when they found him in his house or his apartment. So 10 days at massive doses. Okay. How quickly can alcohol kill a person? One night, right? One crazy fun night of being stupid. Death. One night. So which of those alcohols, therefore, alcohols, aldehydes, acids, right? Ethanol, acetaldehyde, acetic acid, or retinol, retinaldehyde, retinoic acid, which one of those is the body going to prioritize the storage of to get it out of the blood so you don't die? Your body is going to desperately want to store the alcohol because the alcohol kills you quicker. Quick death, slow death. So the body will shove alcohol bound to fatty acid esters. All you high-fat diet people, all you're doing is putting in tons of stuff to shove tons of fat-soluble toxins into your tissues. Humans were never designed for really high-fat diets. I'm sorry. They just weren't. That's why we have so many gallbladders going bad. So people thought, including me, they thought, ooh, this like change and there's less vitamin A in the liver. They must be detoxing. I thought this too. So there's people out there doing like shots of alcohol every day because they think it's speeding up vitamin A detox. It's not. It's doing the exact opposite. All you're doing is adding more toxins to the system. And the vitamin A just moved around. It didn't leave. Remember, what most people think is detox is not actually, it's just processing of poisons. It's not actually detox. Detox is when they leave you. When they leave. Until they leave you, nothing has been detoxed. Do you understand what I'm saying? Until the poisons have left you, nothing has really changed that much. Yes, you can change some of the poison's structures. But we just went over how acetic acid can completely destroy bile ducts, right? And when you detox alcohol, which you make from every bit of carbohydrate that you eat, you're going to turn some of that into alcohol. If you don't know that, yes, you do. So you make some alcohol, you're going to make acetaldehyde, you're going to make acetic acid. You eat vitamin A, you're going to eat beta carotene, it turns into 2 retinols. It's called biotransformation. The liver actually, as it supposedly detoxes things, can make them toxic. It's called biotransformation. It's crazy to think that this happens, but it does. Like when you drink alcohol, the ethanol doesn't kill you. It's the acetaldehyde that kills you. When you eat vitamin A, it's not the retinol that does such terrible things. It's the retinoic acids. But that's part of the detox process. So until that retinoic, if you're actually eating vitamin A or drinking alcohol, it gets more poisonous as it goes along. And if you haven't gotten rid of it, you actually have more poisonous stuff in you. You understand? The things that were in you are now more toxic. How do you get rid of the poisons? Through the bile. That's the best way. You put the bile into your gut. It mixes with the food as a buffer. Soluble fiber can help absorb it and hold it so that you poop it out. If you're leaking it into your blood, the bile and the other toxins in it, it goes to your kidneys next. After that, if your kidneys can't handle it and your liver can't handle it, then it starts coming out of your skin, and that's skin issues. This is how it works. It's just toxic bile hitting everything. And if we start fixing the leak and we make the bile less toxic, health problems go away. That's how it works. So, just make sure. Oh, we got one more question. I see you, Alexi. No more questions after. No more super chats, please. We're all good. I got to go do my inner circle. So Alexi says, if I do too little fiber, I get constipated and high serotonin symptoms. If I do too much, I get joint pain and other symptoms. It's hard to get it just right, and the too little feels worse overall. Okay, so Alexi, I don't know if you're in the program or not, but what I would say is if you are this is an important thing about charcoal for anybody out there. Charcoal, activated charcoal, I like hardwood the best. I'm not a huge fan of coconut charcoal. You can find hardwood charcoal out there. Zen Principle is a good company for it. They make a pound bag and a 2.5 pound bag. But if you can take charcoal, if you can do the fiber to poop enough so pooping, and then you could also do some charcoal with it, I think that would be the best combination. Now, I'm going to warn you people about charcoal. Charcoal soaks up bile like nobody's business, and you need bile to trigger pooping. Those of you with like hypothyroid conditions and ladies especially who are constipated, your bile, the reason why you have all these symptoms is because the bile is going into your blood. It's not going into your guts enough. And that's why you don't poop, because you don't have the bile there to trigger pooping. Too much bile in your guts, diarrhea. Not enough bile in your guts, constipation. If you've got the Goldilocks amount of bile in your guts, you're pooping just right. Okay? That's how pooping works. Bile in your intestines is the trigger for you to poop. So, soluble fiber especially, can trigger a bile dump. Okay. We don't want to think of that as good or bad because it depends on where the bile goes. Too little fiber, you're not triggering the bile dump enough for you. This is your response, Alexi. You're not triggering enough of a bile dump, and so you're not pooping. And you get what you're calling high serotonin symptoms, okay? And other symptoms. So that's when you're dumping a lot of, and you're leaking. If you dump twice as much bile, however much you normally leaked, you could figure out that twice as much bile is going to leak into your bloodstream, and so then you get different symptoms. Okay. It is hard to get it just right. I would look into, if you're in the program, I would definitely read the probiotics articles. I would definitely read the sun fiber articles and the charcoal articles. You can try different. Some people do better on different types of fibers. If you do a supplemental fiber, the cool thing about supplemental fibers, this is a very important point. So, like, let's say people out there don't do great on, they're like, I don't feel good on beans. I tried the beans. I tried to make them work. They just didn't work for me. Or they tried oats. There's too much lutein in oats. Lutein is one of the carotenoids. Let's say there's too much lutein in oats because some people are super lutein sensitive and they're like, I can't do oats. I don't feel good on those. Okay. So they can't do beans. They can't do oats. And there's only so many apples you can eat. You know what I mean? I mean, we have some people out there eating 4 apples a day because it works for them. But anyway, if you get into supplemental fiber, apple pectin capsule, what else? Ones that we tend to use. Those are generally the big ones. There's oat fiber, but oat fiber is insoluble. It's different than soluble fiber. Some people do better on more insoluble fiber than soluble fiber. But if you're doing something like psyllium, or you're doing something like sun fiber, or you're doing something like apple pectin, the other things that people might react to in the food is gone. Right? So the food reactants, like, it's not like beans are a complicated food, complex food. Beans are a complex food. Oats are a complex food. You might want the soluble fiber in them, but the other things in them don't get along with you. Or like somebody might try to eat apples, but the sugar, they're not to the point where they can tolerate that much sugar from them. So they gotta look at these things. But if they were to go do, let's say, sun fiber or apple pectin, most of the additional things that the food would bring are now gone. And so there's less things for them to react to, and you're getting more of a pure fiber instead of food with all. So that's where people are like, you need all the stuff in food. And sometimes you go, no, sometimes we don't want all the things in food. That just makes it too complicated. So why don't we take things out and just put in what we need, especially for people who are really sensitive to things. I deal with really sensitive people. And sometimes we need to lower the variables instead of increase them. But over time, they usually become more resilient. They can eat more foods. But at the start, just like if you hurt yourself in a sport and you go back to rehab, you go to rehab your injuries, and you start with little, you feel like, why am I doing this baby exercise? Like, this is a joke of an exercise, but you're rebuilding. So if you go and you make yourself really toxic and really sick, we might have to go down complexity to simpler foods and simpler fibers even. With that, and the cool thing about the fiber in terms of supplemental fibers is we can very fine tune your dose. You could get the exact same dose of fiber almost every day. So there are advantages to it. Eating food is the best. Don't get me wrong. It's like getting sunlight is better than a tanning bed. Eating real food is better than doing supplements. But sometimes we need to do the things that are not the best because that's what the situation demands. So I hope that helps, Alexi. I didn't see any other comments from you. So, but yeah, that's where supplemental fibers could really come in. Like, For people, I'm just going to throw this out there for some of you who are really sensitive. One of the diets that can really like set a foundation for some people really well. So I'm not a long-term muscle meat carnivore advocate, but for some people going to basically all muscle meat. When I say all muscle meat, I mean we're having some people do okay on doing more egg whites. Some people are doing fine with doing more egg whites. If you don't do well on egg whites, don't eat them. Just like anything, don't eat them. But all muscle meat carnivore, red meat, poultry, dark meat has more zinc with poultry. I tend to prefer dark meat. Also tends to fill you up better because it's got a little bit of fat in it as opposed to like chicken breast, which has almost none. Anyway, but going to an all muscle meat diet and then doing figuring out the soluble fiber that works for you. We have somebody on the program who is super duper sensitive and they're just doing red meat and psyllium and they are improving. And I'm okay with that because that's the diet that's working for them right now. I have another person who's going more towards like chicken breast and egg whites. Very low zinc diet because any zinc triggers her to dump copper. So this is why when people work with me in the testing and consultation packages, I don't know if you know this, but you get 6 months of support. We have sessions each week where people can come in and ask questions and get troubleshooting for 6 months with their package. Who else does this? Free included in the package. It is small group sessions. We have more people coming to these small group sessions to listen and get troubleshooting for stuff they didn't even know they had. We let people come who are working with me. We let people who are working with me doing the testing and consultation come and just listen if they want. Sometimes people come out of there and they go, "You just fixed a problem I didn't even know to ask about." I go, "That's awesome. That's why we do it." So, that is about it. I'm going to go. I have other people asking me. I'm going to work on. I had a guy come to me and he wanted to make short videos. He wanted to like look at my stuff and then help me make shorter videos. I need to do it because we're at 2 hours now. And I look at other podcasters on YouTube and I'm like, that's a 2-hour podcast. I don't have time for that. So I apologize, everyone. I am wordy. It is very difficult to change the whole paradigm of medicine in a YouTube short or a TikTok video. Not that I want to be on TikTok, but probably will be at some point. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed it. Remember, if you want to find more from me, just look in the description below. We do this every Friday. Please feel free to join us. You can also watch it later. Don't forget, if you're here watching this later, which by definition, if you're watching it after this, you will be, make sure to leave a comment. It helps the computers know that you like it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like it, all that fun stuff. And if you want to see a lot of my threads, if you wanted to go and find something cool that I've done, if you go to my Twitter is down in the description. It's NutriDetect because I can't fit the whole name in there. But my pinned thread on Twitter. Go look at my pinned thread on Twitter. Go to the very bottom of it, start at the bottom and work your way back up is what I suggest. And you will get to see all the research and all the logical linking and stuff that I do in a different way than I do here. Okay. I will also this week, I'm working on the vitamin D threads. I'm going to take a lot of the information from today about zinc and magnesium and put that into a thread of 2 threads of how people can raise their vitamin D without taking rat poison. So those will be up very soon. So hope you all enjoyed it. For those of you who are trying to buy the supplements, you've heard about supply chain difficulties. We've had some supply chain difficulties with our keystone minerals, and we're selling so much lactoferrin that we fell behind in getting our order in time, and they had trouble getting it over here from France, from those nice French cows giving us their fresh milk for lactoferrin. But anyway, we're working on all the supplement stuff. The liquid zinc is now in, and we thank everybody for their support. We're working on more products, like I mentioned today, and those will be out soon, and it'll be really cool. I will talk to you all next time. Have a good week. Bye now.